Hey Squishies! Back again with another vlog. This is Gravity Falls Season 2, Episode 19, Weirdmageddon Part 2. And it was another really good one. This one was mostly focused on Mabel, which was something I had floated as a possibility last time, and I'm happy to see they went with it. And it actually, kind of the same way the last episode represented a culmination of Dipper's character arc, this one really kind of represented a culmination of Mabel's, which has been a lot less obvious than Dipper's, but all series she's had these flights of fancy. And in what I'm calling part one of the finale, the episode immediately before the finale, the one with where she actually released Bill, that episode really set up this idea that, like, her fantasies are colliding with reality, and she needs to grow up and cope with that. She needs to accept that there is a real world out there, and she needs to live with it. That doesn't mean she has to stop being imaginative. Doesn't mean she has to stop being weird. It just means there is a real world, and she has to deal with it the way everybody does. And so we get this episode set in what Bill calls his most diabolical trap ever. It's a pretty diabolical trap. It's one I've seen used in other works. The one that's immediately coming to mind is the Alan Moore Superman story For the Man Who Has Everything, in which it's used on Superman, and this kind of trap. It's called the Black Mercy in that story, and it's a parasite that latches onto you and causes you to live out your greatest fantasies while it feeds on you. There's a Star Trek Voyager episode with a similar being. It's a giant space creature that ends up being called the telepathic pitcher plant that basically eats the ship and then causes everybody to fall into happy dreams. And now there's this with Mabel. All of it is kind of going back to the ancient Greek, Homeric actually, I think, idea of the lotus eaters. These people who live in perpetual bliss but have no, essentially, contact with reality anymore. They're just happy all the time, but they sit around accomplishing nothing. And, the old philosophical question of, is our goal in life to be happy, in which case something like that is totally acceptable, or are there other things that matter? Do we need an authenticity to our happiness? Do we need things other than happiness? And the usual consensus is that, yeah, we do. Merely maximizing pleasure is not enough. In this case, it's, what they're playing up is this sense of togetherness, that by living in her fantasy land, Mabel is making herself alone, which is exactly the thing she was afraid of, exactly the thing that essentially caused her to retreat into this fantasy land. And the other characters fall, Wendy and Seuss fall for the trap, which, of course, Mabel did at first as well. The only one who really resists is Dipper, because he has already, in the previous episode, completed the journey of letting go of the thing that he really wanted, and admitting that just getting what he wants is not a sufficient goal, that he needs to be something beyond that. He needs to be a good person. And so he had that scene with Gideon, and we see that echoed here when he realizes that the Wendy who is being everything he ever wanted isn't the real Wendy. And he's able to reject it, resulting in that horrifying bug creature. It was a cute touch that Waddles was in there too. I was kind of wondering what happened to him in the apocalypse, and I like that he's here with them at the end. I still think it's significant that Bill was willing to let Dipper run free, but Mabel had to be put into his most diabolical trap ever. I think Mabel is the person he sees as his biggest threat, because Mabel in the Mindscape was the one back in, I guess it was the first season finale, that figured out how to fight him in the Mindscape. She's the imaginative, creative one. She's the one who adjusts really quickly to weirdness. She's going to be a major threat to him. We've also now got Grunkle Stan with his little army of references to past episodes. That I'm sure is going to matter in the finale. Probably they'll take on Bill's henchmen, I guess, minions, while Dipper and Mabel and maybe the others, like, I think there's kind of a hierarchy of probability where, like, Dipper and Mabel are definitely going to be taking on Bill. They may be getting help from Wendy and Seuss. A little less likely than that are Waddles and Grunkle Stan, and less likely than that is Ford and all the other characters. Although it's possible that Bill is defeated by some kind of combined efforts of everyone in the town and everyone who's ever been in the show. Who knows? Curious about the shield or whatever it is that's keeping him from going out into the world. I'm wondering if maybe it's just that there's a limit to how far his weirdness has spread and he can't exist outside it. Or maybe that crashed ship is containing him somehow. Or something that Ford set up beforehand. Or even something that those government agents that we haven't seen in a while set up as like an emergency containment kind of thing. Any of them are possible. Any of them are potentially interesting. I think the likeliest is that it's a either something Ford set up or something generated by the ship, because bringing the agents in at this stage feels like it'd be a little too much going on for the one episode that's left. But yeah, the main focus here was on Mabel's development and Mabel learning to let go of her fantasies. Because it's something I said way back when. Dipper is in a hurry to grow up. Mabel wants to hold on to childhood as much as possible. Most of the time. And those are both common early adolescent things. Warring impulses in typical, like, pubescent kid. So Dipper had to realize that kind of the signifier of adulthood he wanted, Wendy, he wasn't going to get. Now Mabel needed to realize she has to let go of childhood. She can still love stuffed animals and glitter and sprinkles and all that other stuff, but she has to move on too. She has to grow up and come out of Fantasyland into the real world. It's interesting that those two 90s guys are somehow able to make it out into the real world. I'm guessing probably just because of the effect Bill is having. I'm curious if they'll show up again or not. They may become a permanent part of the weirdness of Gravity Falls. But I love that they were quoting Sartre, because that is like as far from Mabel's worldview as you can get. And so the fact that they're quoting it kind of demonstrates that they have fully left Mabel. They are no longer her creations. She has let go of her fantasies. And it both means that she's free of them and they're free of her. So these two guys can now say something that is utterly un-Mabel-like, because there's not an existential bone in Mabel's body. But, that Sartre quote about, basically born in agony, I forget exactly the wording, but it's like born in agony, live in foolishness, and then die by chance. That's life. But that's not Mabel's life. And so the fact that they're saying it demonstrates that they're no longer Mabel's creatures. So I think it'd be kind of cool if they ended up, like, living in Gravity Falls. Or, like, in the woods around Gravity Falls. It's just part of what's weird about it. There's these two 90s, suit-wearing, sleeve-torn-off, buff lawyer dudes who never age and never come out of the 90s. Otherwise, I mean, a lot of the episode was honestly pretty predictable. Like, the fact that Mabel's scenes would start out, like, her memories would start out sad, and then Dipper would point out, oh, but we were together. That's basically, what happened in that Pixar movie, Inside Out. That was what it was. What If Feels Had Feels. Because that's exactly what that movie was saying about a similar point in life, the cusp of adolescence, where emotional complexity is starting to come in, and realizing that, like, there is a use to sadness. There's a place in the world for it. It can bring people together. And that's what happened here. It brings Mabel and her brother together. Also, what appears to be a resolution, Dipper has decided not to take on being an apprentice. Maybe he'll come back every summer with Mabel and train then, or maybe not. Maybe he'll just move on and go back to his original plan with his life of, hosting his own ghost show. Or something completely different, Lots of people have dreams at 12 that they end up not following up on, not because they lost sight of them or whatever, but because they realized there was something else for them. I know I'm not doing what I wanted to do when I was 12, but I'm pretty content with what I'm doing. It'd be nice if I was making more money from the stuff I enjoy, but I've got a stable day job, so I'm pretty happy with my career. 12-year-old me would be like, what? That's nothing. Like, none of what I do is like what 12-year-old me thought I was going to be doing, but it's okay. 12-year-old me turned out to be wrong about some things. It happens. And it'll happen to Dipper. It'll happen to Mabel. It'll happen to everyone. Some people do end up doing what they thought they were going to do when they were 12, but I think most people don't. Yeah. I'm glad we finally got some more Mabel. This was a really good, actually, Mabel episode just on its own. Lots of good humor, lots of Mabel being Mabel, and in the end, she kind of came out of it on her own. Dipper talked her into it, but it was still her decision and her realization and her growth. So, awesome. And I'm looking forward to the next episode, which I'm assuming, being the finale, is the final confrontation with Bill. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.